rock crawling a Tundra simply makes no sense. Or does it? 16 years ago, Toyota actually made a special edition called the TRD Rock Warrior. Even though I love the name and styling, it wasn't meant for real rock crawling. However, after owning a second-gen Tundra myself, I was surprised by how much potential this platform had. So in this video, I set out to build a true TRD rock warrior that can actually perform in real rock crawling. But at the same time, I wanted to keep it as OEM as possible to pay tribute to Toyota's design. My goal is to see just how far a simple OEM plus build can go if you know what you're looking for. Alright, let's get started. If you want to rock crawl any full-size truck, the biggest issue is the length and wheelbase. This is why most full-size trucks only use as toy haulers and left parked at the trailhead. But what if we make one 20 inches shorter? From 2007 to 2013, Toyota actually offered the Tundra in a regular cab short bed configuration, which was even shorter than a Tacoma. It was the perfect candidate for the rock warrior. But somehow, the official package was only available in double cab or crew max. So for my rock warrior, starting with an RCSB was already a huge step in the right direction. But we're gonna make it even better. The official package came with quite a few accessories, but most of them didn't make any difference off-road. So for my build, I substitute pretty much everything with something more functional. The only thing I did not change were the wheels. So let's start with those. The Rock Warrior wheels are my favorite wheel design by far, and I will explain why. First, they were the first forged wheels TRD developed for off-road. Compared to casting, forging creates a finer grain structure in the material. This allows Toyota to make these wheels both lighter and stronger. Each Rock Warrior wheels weighs only 24 pounds. But they are the wheels Toyota used to win the Baja 1000. The replaceable rings also serve as rock protection, especially for the valve stems. The Rock Warrior wheel was the only 17-inch OEM wheels for this platform. Although there were several 17-inch options from the aftermarket, none of them offer the ideal 50mm offset to minimize the scrub radius. I explain why scrub radius is important in this video, which I will link in the description below. So considering all these functional features, there are simply no aftermarket wheels that check all the boxes. But the biggest benefit from these wheels is that they allow me to run much bigger tires. So let's look at that. The official Rock Warrior came with 285/70R17, basically some 33s. But for a real Rock Warrior, we better pump those numbers up. And remember, we want to keep things OEM plus, so a body mount chop is out of the question. But with the Rock Warrior wheels and a few other tricks, I was able to fit 37s while maintaining full suspension travel. I made a video detailing exactly how it was done, and I will link it in the description below. But what I didn't cover in that video was how I cleared everything in the rear. The 37s did rub these two protrusions in the wheel well. The easiest solution is to run taller bump stops or thicker leaf packs, so that the tire wouldn't go up as far. But for a real Rock Warrior, I wanted as much articulation as possible. So I removed the plastic liners, unbolted the wheel well backings, and cut off these brackets. But once I did that, I can no longer put my liner back on, and my bed sides got all loosey-goosey. Not OEM plus. So I reshaped the metal backing and bolted them through the bed using rib nuts. This shore up the bed sides, and I got to retain the factory liner. With those pesky corners out of the way, I gained so much clearance even with 37s at full stuff. But what this Tundra surprised me the most was that I could actually fit a 37-inch spare at the factory location. There were some minor modifications involved, which I documented in this video. All in all, it felt like Toyota secretly designed the second gen with 37s in mind. The tires alone significantly improved off-road performance, but still not enough for a real rock warrior. But before the next part of this build, I want to thank Vessi for sponsoring this video. Rock crawling in the Northeast usually comes with a lot of water. If you're not careful, you're gonna have a wet foot for the rest of your day. But fortunately, all Vessi shoes are 100% waterproof, so I can focus on enjoying the trails and not worrying about my shoes. To film all the off-road footage, my wife and I had to do a lot of hiking through rocks and mud. Fortunately, our Vessis were lightweight, breathable, and very comfortable. Thanks to their patented Dymatex material, we can simply rinse off the mud. But what I like most about Vessi is that they don't look like hiking gear. So after our four-wheeling trip, we can go out for a date in the same outfit we wore for the trails. Right now, Vessi is having one of their biggest deals of the year. Everything site-wide is 25% off, with selected styles up to 55% off. So hurry and shop at Vessi.com before they are gone. Again, I would like to thank Vessi for supporting our adventure. The official Rock Warrior came with a color match front bumper and a blackout rear bumper. That was the styling I wanted to preserve, but at the same time, I wanted to make them more functional. Starting with the front, the second gen actually had a very short front overhang, which is a huge advantage. But the bumper simply covers too much of the front tires, making it hard to approach an obstacle. A high clearance Viper cut is a popular mod among Toyotas, but a simple cut just doesn't look OEM. Fortunately, my chrome bumper was made out of steel, so I welded on a plate to encapsulate the cut. I then ground out a nice rounded corner to match the rest of the bumper. Damn, check out that radius. To make sure the steel doesn't rust, I sandblasted the entire bumper and sealed it with zinc-rich epoxy primer. I then spray painted it with color match aerosol cans and finished it with 2K clear coat. I made sure to use the stuff with the skeleton for maximum durability. And just like that, I created a much more functional Rock Warrior front bumper. As you can see, it offers significantly more clearance in front of the tires. If you want to see a detailed video of the whole process, including all the mistakes I made along the way, let me know in the comments below. Next, let's work on the rear bumper. Although being a full-size pickup truck, the second-gen Tundra actually has the exact same rear overhang as a third-gen Tacoma. But guess what? I'm gonna make it even shorter. From 2007 to 2013, in addition to the standard steel bumper, Toyota actually offered a high-clearance stubby rear bumper for the sports appearance package. It wrapped 3 to 4 inches closer to the bed, and that was the perfect rear bumper for this build. But instead of painting it body color like the sports package, I painted it black to pay tribute to the original Rock Warrior. I was hoping to make it work with the factory tow hitch, so I cut off as much non-structural material as possible. But the tow hitch still stuck out way too far, so I had no choice but to remove it. Man, I had to say, the factory tow hitch was extremely heavy duty, which was why I really want to keep it. But on the other hand, the cross member for the sports bumper probably saved 80 pounds worth of weight. It also further improved my departure angle by quite a bit, so I think this was the right move for this build. Now, the original sports bumper came with a plastic step in the middle, which was what these metal tabs were for. But knowing I would definitely be dragging the rear bumper off-road, I decided to leave the crossmember exposed to handle the rocks. So I folded in these tabs with a mallet to make it look a little more finished. With high clearance bumpers front and rear, this Tundra now has a lot better approach and departure. But we still need something in the middle. Underbody protection is critical for rock crawling, but the official Rock Warrior includes nothing more than the standard splash guard. So for the skid plate, I installed one from a TRD Pro, and it was a direct bolt-on. The TRD skid plate is tucked as high as possible for maximum ground clearance. And of course, that big red TRD logo is very OEM plus. Unfortunately, there were no off-the-shelf rock sliders for the RCSB, because it was such a rare configuration. So I made my own. My strategy was minimum effort for maximum results. The tube works were actually Trout Gear's 67-inch universal sliders. They were made from full OEM tubing, fully welded, and cost only $329 shipped to my door. This saved me so much time and money. And all I need to do is come up with the mounts. For the mounting feet, I designed them with 3-dimensional gussets for the maximum strength-to-weight ratio. I also made some self-positioning nut plates I can put inside the frame for a simple one-person installation. If you want to see a video on how I design and put these sliders together, let me know in the comments below. And to finish them off, I powder coated the slider in the same shade of gray as the Rock Warrior wheels. Now that is what I call OEM plus. And I already scratched them up on rocks. Well, that's what sliders are for. The official Rock Warrior came with the same yellow Bilstein shocks as the ones on TRD Off-Road. These shocks had the exact same length as the standard non-off-road shocks, so they do not add any suspension travel, especially in the front. Even after I removed the front sway bar, more on that later, the factory suspension just doesn't have enough droop. But if we set the shock aside, the rest of the Tundra IFS is actually capable of a lot more wheel travel. This was thanks to its wide track and high angle CVs. Just that Toyota limits it with a very short shock. My guess it was for serviceability, so you don't need a very tall jack to change the front tire. And for those who really care about off-road, they probably go with the TRD Pros. And for the Pros, Toyota gave them significantly longer shocks. And these are what I put on my TRD Rock Warrior. By simply swapping out the shocks, and nothing else, we gained an additional 1.8-inch travel in the front and 1.4-inch in the rear. When I had the factory suspension, I didn't have enough flex to climb these ramps. But with the TRD Pro, these ramps weren't tall enough to max out my flex. The TRD Pro suspension also lifts the front end by just under 2 inches. A great balance between adding ground clearance and preserving articulation. Another part of these shocks I really like was their construction. The piggyback reservoir made clever use of the space, so there were no reservoir hoses to worry about. No aftermarket coilover does this. And even though these are 2.5 body internal bypass, very high performance stuff, they still adopt factory style rubber bushings that are noise and maintenance free. Very OEM plus. Now, I don't want to address the front sway bar I removed. I did so to achieve more articulation, and it was also slightly rubbing my 37s. The amount of body roll wasn't crazy, and many people have been doing it for decades. But remember, we wanted to keep it OEM plus, so I installed a TRD rear sway bar. The second gen Tundra came with no rear sway bar from the factory, so the TRD one uses U-bolts to climb the bar onto the axle. The official way is to install the bar underneath, but obviously that ground clearance is totally unacceptable. So I turned the U-bolts 90 degrees and mounted the bar behind the axle. Although I still introduced some low-hanging fruits, the on-roll improvement was very noticeable, especially when I was carrying a rooftop tent. So for now, I'm gonna leave the sway bar installed and see how it goes. Okay, there is only one item left to complete the package. The official TRD Rock Warrior had the iconic Tomahawk shift knob. It was made from solid aluminum and has 6 socket head screws on each side. Unfortunately, this part was discontinued years ago, so it has become a rare collector's item. Holy moly, that cost more than my rock sliders. As much as I want this original part, it's just way too expensive. So, I made something better. Mine was also solid aluminum with 6 socket head screws. But my screws and this ring were made from true graphite titanium, which perfectly matched the Tundra's interior. This is actually a product I designed 3 years ago, and I made a version for many other Toyota models. In fact, my wife and I assembled each and every one of them just 20 feet from where I film my videos. A unique feature of my design is the Velcro patch compatibility, so you can customize it using small patches from any designer. If you like my design, go check them out on tinkerdesign.com. Okay, with the last piece of the puzzle in place, my true TRD Rock Warrior is finally complete. Or is it? One of the most important gadgets for rock crawling is a locker. But for this platform, Toyota never made an OEM locking differential. However, this Tundra does have Toyota's signature active traction control. So, along with everything else we've done, can my Rock Warrior actually handle legit rock crawling? In the next video, we will put it through the ringer against some very modified rigs. All of them were on 37s, long travel suspensions, and lockers front and rear. Can an OEM plus Tundra actually keep out in the rocks? Subscribe and stay tuned. Thank you for watching. I will see you in the next one.